Hey, good afternoon. It's Wednesday afternoon. It's Hawaii, the state of clean energy, and I'm Ray Starling, standing in for Jay Fidel, who's off in somewhere other than here. So I'm here with my co-host and guest, I guess, John Cole, who's joining us. John's got a long history in the energy business. First time I met John, or early on when I knew John, he was on the Public Utilities Commission as one of the commissioners, and he's left that position and he's now with HNEI, still involved in what's happening out here in the energy world. And I am with Hawaii Energy, who sponsors this program. And both John and I have served on the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and that's the main backer of this particular show. So we're happy to be here today, and we've got a really interesting program for you. We're going to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts, that is John and I. We both drive electric vehicles. And we thought today would be a great day to kind of talk about the joys and frustrations of EV ownership or electric vehicle ownership. And so we've kind of made a list of things that we like about electric vehicles and things that we wish were better. And so I'm going to let John start off and talk about one of the joys of EV ownership. Is that list
Sure.
Longer than the frustrations?
Yeah, actually it is. Right?
Okay.
First of all, thanks for having me today. I'm happy to join you. On the top of my list as a joy for EV ownership would be that they're fun to drive. Before I got my EV, I was driving a Honda SUV, which is, a large vehicle, fit the whole family in and all that, and it was my main vehicle. But getting in the EV and its smallness, its handling, and its peppiness or acceleration, it's a lot of fun to drive.
I agree.
It feels
with
like
that.
a sports car. It doesn't really look like one, but it certainly feels and handles like one.
Well, let me tell you, how many, or you tell us, how many electric vehicles do you have at your house?
We actually have 3 now.
3?
We have 2 Nissan Leafs, which are all electricity, and we also have 1 Chevy Volt, which is also run by batteries, but has a backup gasoline engine which charges the batteries.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite? I mean, is one better than the other, or just different?
Just different. I mean, I prefer driving the Leaf. I think the Volt is a little heavier. Maybe it's because of, that extra gasoline engine, and it doesn't handle quite the same way. Different shape and all that too, but it's a great car. We actually got that one because my son has a girlfriend on the other side of the island, and he uses it mostly. He doesn't have to worry about, running out of charge or finding somewhere to charge, right?
Okay, well, let's see. I'll give one of my joys. One of the joys is I feel good about myself in driving a Leaf because we're not producing any greenhouse gases when we're driving. And although some of the electricity used to charge the batteries might still be made with fossil fuel, the overall greenhouse gas reduction is pretty significant compared with a gasoline-powered car. So that's one of my big joys. You have another one on your list?
No, I'll just build on that though. I mean,
Okay.
like you, I have PV on my house, and I actually had PV before I considered getting an electric vehicle. So when I put the PV in, I'm under a lease program, but it basically covered all my use pretty much, under the net metering program. And but when I got the EV, it's a little bit higher because we're using the electricity to charge the batteries on the car. And then when I got the second one and the third one, a little more.
Yeah.
But still, our electric bill is much lower than it would be otherwise. I think right now we probably pay maybe $60 to $80 a month. Okay. Beyond what we produce, so I think we're still far ahead, rather than if we were buying gasoline for 3 cars.
Wow, yeah. Well, we have PV, as you mentioned, and we sort of overdid our PV after we, well, actually we put in PV, a small amount, about 5 kilowatts, got our Leaf and really enjoyed it very, very much, and decided that our next car that we bought was going to be an electric vehicle. And so planning for that, we decided to put some more PV on the roof. So we're overdone a little bit, and we're actually giving back to the utility considerable amount of electricity every day. But we also expect to have another electric vehicle and start using that to charge using the extra PV to charge the electric vehicle.
So you're going to get a second?
Yes,
Excellent.
definitely. Well, and yeah, not to get off the joys and frustrations, but you have read recently that the range on some of these, and we'll talk about range in just a few minutes, but the range in the coming years, next year, and especially in 2017, the range on at least the Leaf vehicle is going to increase maybe up to like 200 miles range, which that would be more than perfect for us.
Right.
Even your son, who has to travel across the island to visit his girlfriend, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So, got another joy for us?
The second thing I listed down was just low maintenance. I mean, I've had the car 2.5, almost 3 years now. And I mean, I brought it in for its regular scheduled maintenance, but the first time I went in, and you know, I just waited there because they told me it would only take like a half an hour. I was shocked when I got the bill. It was like $18. And basically all they had to do was, you know, rotate the tires. There's no oil to change. There's very few fluids. I think there's some brake fluid, but other than that, the electric motors are very, very low maintenance.
Yes.
Things don't break like they do on some cars.
That's
and
very true.
Other than rotating the tires, the service has been very minimal, and I've had to put hardly any, you know, actual money into the maintenance itself. So that's definitely a big plus.
I noticed the same thing, and plus you can lift the hood, such as it is, and I think my hood has been lifted at least maybe twice since I've had the Leaf for over the last 3 years. And I think that was to put window washer in it, right?
I did that recently myself.
But there's no dirt.
Yep.
There's no grease,
grime,
there's no dripping oil.
Maybe a few leaves that got in there.
Yeah, it was just amazing. So I you know, that part I think is a great joy, to not look under there and have to worry about what's that oil leaking down there.
Yep, definitely.
So, got another one?
On the plus or minus side,
Yeah.
I guess we can stick to the plus for
Yeah,
now.
let's stick to the pluses right now. We'll end up with the minuses.
Well, I listed, like you, the environment, and it helps me to feel good because of no emissions and reduction in using fossil fuel is, you know, in one way in my life anyway, to try to help things out. Another definite plus for me and my family are the incentives right now in Hawaii that go along with owning an electric vehicle, and especially the parking.
Absolutely,
Myself,
that's on my list. Yeah.
I work at UH and my 2 kids go there, and we don't have the same schedule, so a lot of days we'll all take our own vehicle down, and we don't live far. We actually live in the back of the valley, but I pay for parking through my work, which my daughter uses. She has a pickup truck, which is nice when we need something like that. That's our 4th car. And then, but the 2 electric vehicles can park for free, and it's a huge savings. It's
I can imagine.
$500 or $600 a year each.
Well, we understand the value of the parking benefit especially when we go on a trip and park at the airport. Although I think I've heard that they're planning to put some limit on what we can use. I mean, I've actually checked out after Christmas vacation or something, leaving the airport parking deck, and you know, they'll register that, you owe us $200. I said, electric vehicle.
Yep.
Wave me on through. And so that's a good feeling, actually.
Or it's even convenient with the street parking at a meter. You don't have to worry about digging around looking for change, or whether you have change.
Yeah, you just find a meter, you just find a parking space and pull in.
And there's a lot of, you know, city and state lots around that, you know, I work at UH and come downtown a lot to for meetings and other things, and it's easy to find a public parking lot, which means run by the city or state to find a spot. So that's definitely one of the big ones. And I think there's HOV privileges too if you're alone, but I don't travel the highway too much during rush hour where I would need to use the zipper lane.
I think you're right.
But that would definitely be another plus.
So another joy for me is I didn't realize it until after quite a long time driving my electric vehicle and not coming anywhere close to a gasoline vehicle. I actually went back to the mainland and had to rent a car, and I went to fill it up. I got gasoline on my hands, and I had not smelled gasoline on my hands in literally years, because like you, one of the great joys you had mentioned is driving past the Costco gas station where everybody's lined up waiting for pumping this gas into their cars, and we just drive right on by.
No, that's a great feeling. Even when I'm driving home and you pass the gas stations and see people pumping up their cars, it's nice to not have to make that extra stop.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just pull into your garage like you normally would and plug in and...
Right. So, well, another joy on my part, and it's not a big deal, but I can be in my garage and start my car up and run the air conditioner and don't have to worry about asphyxiating myself by not opening the garage door, right, until I'm ready to leave.
Exactly. So. I don't typically do that, but that's definitely a plus. And in colder climates, people preheat their cars too, so sure. Same deal there.
Sure.
And one other thing I had listed, and I don't know if I'd call it a joy, but it's been interesting. A lot of people, approach you and ask you about the electric vehicle. They see you drive it or get out of it or whatever, and I kind of like having others interested in something you're doing like that, and to ask you questions, and for you to be able to help them out and answer some of their questions. So that's kind of a plus in my book too.
Well, and you mentioned it's kind of peppy, and I always like to get someone who's not ever been in an electric vehicle and have them go for a ride with me, and I find a nice steep hill and just floor it and go up the hill like a slingshot, that is very impressive when you do that. And it's all about the high torque for the electric motor as opposed to a gasoline motor. So when you romp down on it, it's got 100% torque going to those
constant,
motors. Yes, and that really is impressive when you do it. Especially, I've done it before with like a car, like 4 adults in the car, and go up a steep hill and just accelerate, and it's almost like it's unbelievable that it can do that. And we're driving Leafs, right? And the Tesla is like, 3 light years ahead of that. And you've seen some of the videos about the Tesla in their, Go Crazy mode or whatever they call it. But yeah, that's definitely a lot of fun. And the joys, I find new joys all the time. But before we get to more joys and maybe a few frustrations and surprises, we're going to have to take a quick break so we can have a little advertising for future shows.
Okay. To Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy on Wednesday, and we have Sharon Moriwaki, my co-host and co-chair of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and we have Warren Bohlmeyer today, a special guest with the Hawaii Renewable Energy Alliance, and also a member of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum.
In fact, he's our Renewable Energy Working Group Chair. So
he
takes care of all of our...
You ought to see him in song and dance, too. He does the musical part of the show. Sharon is more serious than that, but not much more serious. So anyway, what do you think of this show? I mean, is this good?
I think this is good. We hope it's good. We hope it attracts a lot more people than our forum, so that people can see what's going on in energy and clean energy, and call in, write in,
Yeah,
tweet
we
or
want
Twitter.
that.
or
We want public engagement, civic engagement from everybody, because that's the only way we're going to get down the road on this, right, Warren?
Yeah, I think so, and it's an opportunity for guys like me to share a little bit of their manao and sometimes get the facts right. Who was that guy that said, just give me the facts, you know, start with the facts and then work from there? Oh, it was Dragnet guy, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Jack
I was
Jack
just
Lamb.
I was just
I
in
would
grade
all
school then.
remember
I
that.
barely
I was
remember
like,
that.
yeah.
Just the facts,
Just the
man.
man.
Here on Hawaii, the state of clean energy, every Wednesday from 4 to 5. You'll see. Come back soon. Right, Sharon?
Right.
Mark Byrne?
Yes.
Okay, we're back with you, and I just saw on the monitor here where Jay and Sharon were. They were off with Warren Bollmeyer making their video, I guess. But yeah, I'm Ray Starling. I'm back with you, and our guest today, John Cole, actually is a co-host with me today, and we are talking about everything you always wanted to know about electric vehicles. And since John and I both drive electric vehicles, we were one of the first to get electric vehicles. Maybe you might talk a little bit about the process of getting an electric vehicle, at least in the early days. It was hard to get on the list, had to pay money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably know better than I, but I got on that list when the Leaf was first announced and was going to buy one and everything, but I ended up not. I waited, but you got one of the first ones. But there was a lot of, you know, we went to test drive when they were in town, and then when they finally started getting delivered, they, you know, I would get calls every once in a while saying, it's going to be a little longer, it's going to be a little longer. And when we finally got our chance, my wife and I decided to wait, and we ended up leasing later for other reasons, but we weren't in on that first batch of cars, I guess.
Well,
like
it
you
was
may have been.
yeah, actually, I guess as things go, it was handled very well, but it was frustrating for the customers because we were all excited about, you know, getting on the list. We had to pay $100, as I recall, a down payment, $100 to basically show them that we were serious. We got on the list, and it was like months. It was like 6 or 8 months. And and so they called and they said, "Okay, we're ready. Your Leaf is being shipped. It's on its way. But before we can give you the Leaf, you know, the process was that you had to put in a charging station in your house, a 220 volt charging station. That was a requirement."
Okay.
And I guess they were concerned because there weren't that many chargers around town, so they would make sure that if you had a Leaf, you had a charger in your house. And what they didn't tell you is that there's a charger that comes with the car, basically. It's a
110
charger,
volt,
the
right.
110 volt that you can stick in the
Regular.
wall socket. And if you've got enough time to charge, you don't
That'll
need the
do.
big one. You don't need, but we went ahead. We had a contractor come in and put in our 220 volt charging station, which is fine. But as it turns out, 99% of the time, I come home, I plug in the 220 volt charger. It charges, it takes about 2 hours worth of charging to refill the battery for the 25-mile trip back to and from town, from Kailua. And it's done in 2 hours, right? If I had plugged in just to the wall socket and not spent the time and the money to get the 220 charger, it would just take 4 hours, right?
Right.
And of course, I'm sleeping that whole 4 hours, so it wouldn't have mattered. I didn't know that, and it was still a good thing, good process, and I'm glad we did it. But I still feel good about the Leaf and the whole process, and the fact that the Leaf, the Nissan folks keep us advised about things concerning the Leaf and new software and so forth that comes out so that you can get that downloaded. So it's got a lot of things going for it. And I think you had one more joy that you wanted to talk about?
No, I just wanted to mention that I was thinking the other day how my youngest daughter, she just got her license last March, and she basically learned to drive on an electric vehicle,
Oh,
a
so
Leaf.
she-
And she drives my car almost all the time when she uses the car. So a lot of times she'll take the car to school and I'll either catch a ride with somebody or ride my bike down to her. But I was thinking the funny thing is there's going to be a new generation
Yeah.
of people who don't really like or know gasoline cars. I
Yeah.
mean, she had to drive one when she did the driving school driving, and sometimes she has to drive her sister's truck, but she really doesn't like it.
Yeah.
She says it's so much easier and pleasant with an electric vehicle. She doesn't understand why people would want gasoline
sure,
cars.
and
So kind of like, you know, the computer generation, my kids didn't know there was a time without computers, and they find it very strange that there wasn't when I was growing up. So I think this is another thing that's going to be kind of like that as more and more electric vehicles get out there and people experience it in that way, that it's just going to seem, you know, as normal as the phone attached to their hands is today.
Well, and in some ways, it's kind of sad. I mean, I have some nostalgia because
sure.
both you and I grew up where you'd crawl under the hood once in a while, change the
Yeah.
oil, put in new spark
Spark
plugs
plugs.
or new...
Work on the carburetor.
Whatever, yeah.
yeah.
I remember being based on Guam, and there it was hard to get your car worked on. And so a lot of the people, when they had work to do on their cars, they would order in the parts and actually do it. I remember for a couple of weeks, I had a carburetor sitting on my kitchen table with all the little
Parts.
screws and pieces and everything. And my wife thought I would never get that thing put back together, but I did. And so the rest is history. But we're in the new age now. So why, do you have some frustrations? What would you wish were different with your electric vehicles?
Well, I have a few things about the charger and charging I can discuss later, but my main one is the range anxiety. I mean, my typical driving, it's no problem. We live in town, work in town, and, you know, we go out to other parts of the island, but typically Mililani or like Makakilo area or something, and we've never had a problem. But I would hesitate, you know, going to the North Shore or something like that. I know there's some chargers at Turtle Bay, but when things get a little close, you definitely feel that anxiety. And there's times when you are out and about, like going to Makakilo, and you didn't have time to charge your car, and you did a couple back and forths or something, and it's starting to ding and say you've only got so many miles left, and it's very worrisome.
Yours dings?
Yes.
See, I've never gotten to the ding.
When you get like around 15 to 10 miles left,
dings?
Estimated miles, right?
Holy cow, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
No, it does.
Well, let me tell you. I drive my electric vehicle like flying a small airplane, or I guess a big airplane, but I don't fly big ones. But the small ones, you plan your trip,
Right.
and you're continually looking at, are you on the right or place where you were supposed to be, and have you used the right amount of gas? But you plan to never run your tanks dry on an airplane, or you die.
Yeah.
So I drive the Leaf like that. I plan my trip, and if I take a couple of deviations, I know, okay, I got to look for a place to top it, not top it off, but just give it a little extra so I can get back home, right? And I have never run out. I've never gotten a ding. I'm really surprised. I'd probably think, my gosh, what's happening to this thing? It's dinging at me. But I've never gotten a ding, but I have had to make a diversion and go get a charge. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my frustrations. There's not a good, clear way to find a charging station that's operational, that doesn't have someone plugged in already, and has a method of payment or no payment,
right,
that I can use. Some you have to purchase a card ahead of time, and you use this card or whatever. And since I don't charge very often off of my,
right,
outside of my home, I don't carry around a couple of cards to make sure I've got the right card for the whatever charger I'm going to use. So, that's a big frustration for me, especially not knowing where there is an available charger like right now, not being used. Because if you happen to, get to the charger and you're too low to go to another charger and there's a guy already there and
What are you gonna
he's
do?
still got 2 hours left, you're there for a couple of hours. So that's a big frustration, and I think that's something we can do something about. I think, well, let's talk about the frustrations, but I see some fixes, and we can talk about that later.
Definitely.
Yeah, you look so full of frustration. Go ahead and tell
all
us
those
something.
things you were mentioning, the old phrase, there ought to be an app for that. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I've downloaded a few apps on my phone that have where things are located and stuff, but yeah, I haven't found anything that will say if the charger is actually available.
Yep.
I mean, so many times where you would like to charge, it's occupied already.
Yeah.
And several times, I know you see cars that aren't even electric parked in those spots.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah,
So the
I agree.
enforcement for that isn't really there either. But
Yeah.
I think it would be hard to enforce anyway.
Yeah,
But-
and that's one, I've got some needs down here that we can talk about, some etiquette rules
Yeah.
that we could voluntarily adhere to, but, oh, I've got, we have some, okay.
There's a question from the audience.
Oh, is that a
I can
question?
see, yep.
Okay. Okay.
Make it bigger for
Good
Ray.
afternoon. If you guys could name the next EV, Leaf, Tesla, what would you name it? Oh, that's a good question.
Are you a marketer?
Wow. I don't know. It would be, I don't know, wow. Wow. I mean, I think the electric vehicles are not just a different mode of powering the car, but I think they're taking us into the future. And I'm very proud, and I know you are too. One of the reasons why we both bought these vehicles is to be one of the first to get this thing going, because it's so important for us out there. And that I'd name the next one the wow, because it's so astonishing, especially when you look at all the joys we talked about. Just no changing oil.
Definitely.
But you have a name?
No, I'm drawing a blank. Go?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, that's a hard
Something about
question.
moving forward. I'll think of a good word.
Sent that one in.
Something about moving forward, but
Yeah.
I can't think of the right word right now.
Yeah. So we do have some frustrations, and I think that's fair to put them on the table, because if we put them on the table and talk about them, maybe we can start thinking of some fixes for some of these frustrations, because there are a lot more joys than frustrations. There are not very many frustrations. The range anxiety is one. I've dealt with it by never getting down that low, planning my trips so that I can either spend 30 minutes at a charger and know I've got enough to get to my destination, or make sure that I just don't exceed and get to the ding part, right?
Well, in all fairness, whenever I've heard the ding, we weren't far enough away from home to make me worried about not making it, but
Okay.
we have pushed it that far, so.
All right.
Although my wife gets a lot more anxious when it hits 20, 25, she starts worrying. I wait till it gets to around 10.
I've got a story for you, but we need to take another commercial and let Jay and whoever get back on. Is it going to be Sharon and Jay again? I don't know.
Aloha, this is Reg Baker, and I am the host of Business in Hawaii. We talk about positive stories of businesses in Hawaii, how they have been successful, and how they have overcome some of the obstacles that a lot of us encounter when we try to have a business here. And believe it or not, there are a number of positive stories here, and we want to talk to all of you. So we broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock, and it rebroadcasts again on Olelo Channel 54. So I sure hope to see you next time. Please tune in on Thursdays at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on ThinkTech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Okay, we're back. It's Hawaii, the state of clean energy, and we're talking about electric vehicles with John Cole, and I'm Ray Starling. And we're going to talk about some more frustrations with electric vehicles.
I could explain one of mine initially was, like you said, getting the charger. When we first got our first Leaf, the dealer offered, their service or somebody they work with to come and install a charger, and it was going to be around $3,000 or something. And I was kind of floored, and I actually went on the internet and found my own charger to be delivered to me on the Home Depot website for like $700. And we also know some electricians, so we had them come in and they installed it for a few hundred more. So, but just the initial cost, I mean, there's that upfront cost. And typically electric cars are also more expensive than a comparable gasoline-powered car. So that's definitely one of the negatives, is that initial cost is going to be higher. For instance, I think the Nissan Leaf is pretty much the Nissan Versa car with a few modifications and changes in shape for aerodynamics and stuff. But if you compare the prices, they're quite a bit different. Mm-hmm. So that initial expense is a lot. And then going back to the chargers, even if after you have it installed, it's up to you to maintain and take care of. If it breaks, get it fixed. So that's could be a cost or extra work. And for myself, it's been a little frustrating.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's on the sidewall in our garage, and sometimes it's stretched across to meet the second stall. And more than once, I'll say several times, people have backed out of my garage when the charger is stretched across to the car on the other side, and it's hooked on the fender thing, and they basically pull the charger thing off the wall. And so several times I've had to, fix that, and only once the wires got messed up, but usually it's just the base of the thing getting cranked off.
I hadn't heard that one before, but
And
that's definitely possible.
So, and then one other incident I had, the charger, whenever we plugged it in, it just made this shriekingly loud buzzing noise. It freaked me out. I thought it was going to blow up or something, so I didn't want to charge the car. But then we're stuck, if you can't charge the car, you can't go anywhere. So I was looking on the internet what it could be, and I actually even called Ray, I think it was a Saturday, asking him what he thought it could be. And from what I found out on the internet, and I made a call to the company that made my charger and stuff, and basically I got one of those compressed air cans and took the cover off the charger and blew out all the electronics. And apparently there was something stuck in there, a bug or a dead gecko or something that was, vibrating. But the noise almost sounded like an alarm. It was so loud. And it was just something, when I heard it, I was like, I can't leave this plugged in, I thought something was definitely wrong. But something like that, you're not going to have with gasoline cars. You got to, just work with it and figure it out on your own, like a lot of other things in your home. So.
Well, other frustrations?
Well, there was one where you had a story, but I've worried about it, and the car doesn't have a spare tire.
All right, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a thing now with cars generally, or if it's just the electric cars that don't, but
when you think about it, how often have you used a spare tire? But you drag it around, and with an electric vehicle, that means lower mileage. It's more weight, right?
True. I mean, I've had to go change a lot of tires for my kids, and a couple of times myself. The thing when my kids are out, especially my young ones, sometimes the wife gets to worrying, or my wife, sorry, she hates the wife. So, it's just a little extra something to worry about. I wouldn't say it's been a big frustration for us. But.
Well, I had a flat tire once, and I didn't know what to do. Actually, I was parked at the airport. I came back after a vacation, and there I was. The tire was, flat. And I had remembered going to the airport, and I heard a kind of a clicking sound. And I got out, looked all around, and it sounded like there might have been a nail or something in my tire, but I couldn't find it. So I kept on driving, went, parked, got on the airplane, went on vacation, came back, and sure enough, there was a nail in there. And the beauty of tires today is they're pretty rugged. You can stick a nail in there, and they will go down, but they rarely explode and or won't hold air at all. So what I did is I went to the hardware store and bought a small electric air compressor.
Okay.
It's a little, just a little thing, and you plug it into your cigarette lighter, and it would blow up your tire, and it didn't immediately all leak out. I blew it up a little more than it needed just to give me a little room, And I drove the car to Sears, and they fixed the tire. So I didn't have to worry about a tow truck. I didn't have to do anything other than just go get this air compressor and come back and fill it up with air. And so unless you have a blowout where it just completely, blows off the rim, you're okay if you carry. And so I carry around this little electric compressor in the back of my car. So that's the way to fix that.
Okay.
And it weighs a lot less than a spare tire. So, okay, one of the things, and we probably don't have enough time to really explore this, so we may have you and possibly Sharon back, she's a Leaf driver, to talk about the limited number of public charging stations that you might have access to, and how do you get information about them? How do you find out if they're operational or if somebody's using them? There's just no good standard way to find out that information. And I think we need to standardize it. If you really want electric vehicles to take off, we've got to standardize the perhaps even the ownership. The city could own it. If the utility doesn't want to own charging stations, let the city own it, charging stations, but they're all the same. The way you get a charge, you go charge, and it's billed to maybe your electric bill. Automatically, you just punch in your number and get your charge, and you don't have to worry about whether you get the right card or if it's a different vendor, a different method of payment. And that would be really great. And again, for me at least, I would rarely use those, but when I use them, it's because you really need them.
Right.
It's a necessity. It's not, just a convenience. So that's one of the big things. And again, I say we can do something about that. We can find a way that is inexpensive or the least expensive way to fix that kind of problem. And then maybe even technology, if the 2017 edition is a 200-miler, maybe we don't even have to worry about this anymore, right? Just have that one charger in your house and you're done. You're okay. So, go ahead. Oh, you got another frustration?
I'll go off of that. Not necessarily a frustration. I just wanted to talk about how with, charging in EVs and the whole system, there's a ton of potential out there that I think we've hardly scratched the surface.
Spoken like a true public utilities commissioner.
No, it has to do with, the utility and all the solar on the system and the way people charge their cars. I mean, I think most people probably go home after they get home from work and plug their car in, which isn't the best for the utility trying to manage your system.
Yep.
So there's got to be things that will, help incent people to the correct charging behavior that will help,
Absolutely.
The utility system, do what it needs to do, help absorb more renewable energy, shifting use so that, you know, more of the PV being produced in the middle of the day can be used at that time,
Yeah.
rather than, you know, everybody plugging in at the same time and there's no sun out, so everything's going to be charged with fossil fuels and it stresses the utility system.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
there's a lot that can be done eventually, and I think EVs can be a fair amount of the
Well, and
solution to it.
maybe that's the subject of our next show coming
Yeah.
up. So,
HNEI has actually done a couple of studies on charging and stuff, so it could be
oh,
interesting
really?
to get into
Really?
some of that.
Are they published somewhere where? Mere
Yeah, I
mortals
think
can
so.
see them?
Actually, we did it for DBED, who was doing some, I think it was under a Department of Energy, U.S. Department of Energy
Okay.
grant. So it should be somewhere on their website.
Okay.
It's a piece of a bigger thing that they did. But it was just looking at different
All right.
charging profiles, how it could help or might not help so much with, you know, reducing curtailment of renewable energy and things like that.
Well, you know, and I think it's helpful to get some more people in here who can talk about their points of view, because your
Definitely.
charging situation and your use of the Leaf is a little different from mine.
Mhm.
And we've got to find something that sort of takes care of everybody's basic needs.
Definitely.
But I think we could do that. That's not a tall order, and we just need to do it.
Yep.
So maybe I volunteer you to be on that committee. So we'll
You're
get
charging me with putting this one together?
Yeah. So, okay, what, let's see. So, yeah, surprises. What surprised you about the, other than the fact that the ladies wanted to always come over and talk to you, and right? But what surprised you about this?
I just, what surprised me is I'm still excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I still enjoy driving it. I like, you know, what it's doing for the environment and helping me, you know, achieve some of that on a personal level. And I know things like when you first get a car, it's like that, but after a while it's routine, and it just kind of hasn't worn off yet, really.
You know, that's a subtle point, but it's very true for me, and I've talked to other people that say the same thing. It's still exciting. You get in the car, and it's almost like you've got a, you know, you could have a Corvette Stingray, you know, and you'd be all excited about, you know,
Yep.
giving it the gas and going up the street. I get a kick out of my little EV, and I love it whenever there's a traffic situation where you need to either not do anything or jump real fast to get where you want to be, so you're getting
Like the entrance ramps on
yeah,
University
and
to
it just
H1.
blows some people's minds, you know, here's this little car, they're gonna wind it up, you know, and they're not gonna, and you just, boom, and you're there.
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of the best feelings of all. But I think we're about to run out of time here. So I guess it's time to thank you, John, for on short notice coming up, and it's
thank you.
great. You feel so good about the electric vehicles that you want to come take your day off and come spend it with us here. We do appreciate it very much, and we'll have you back. Maybe bring your daughter, and she can tell us about her experience with the Leaf and the fact that she's never spelled gasoline on her hands before.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you next week, Wednesday at 4 o'clock, Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. Thank you very much.
Thanks.